Started.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on the 12 attitudes and responsibilities of mastery. My name is Michael Bailey, and last week we got through reading all the way into, I believe it was conservation. Kelly, I'm just going to leave your mic unmuted unless we have any problems, and if we do, let me know and I'll mute it. Okay, I'm just going to quickly read through some of this stuff real quick. Part of the process of spiritual integration of our higher selves for the expansion of our consciousness, also referred to as enlightenment, involves reprogramming the way we think. Our thoughts create our reality and both our internal and external life experiences. The 12 attitudes and responsibilities of mastery, when embodied and lived, will help to change our thought patterns, thoughts that we simply take for granted because they are part of our programming, our life experiences beginning before birth, and our unique perspective on our hologram, our external world. The changing of thought patterns actually changes the programming in our physical body and DNA. The 12 attitudes and responsibilities of mastery are crucial to understanding what kinds of choices lead to what kind of outcomes, and provide guidelines regarding choices that lead towards oneness and the freedom from limitation and separation, including financial freedom, associated with true personal mastery. Thank you for joining us every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern for a more in-depth discussion of the 12 attitudes and responsibilities of mastery and how they can be utilized to create true joy, happiness, inner peace, and personal prosperity, both emotional and financial. Okay, now I'm going to skip here because we went over all this last week. So I'm going to skip to where we left off here, which was right here. We ended with kindness. So we're going to start today with conservation. And these are we read through the attitudes of mastery, and these are the responsibilities of mastery. Conservation. Conservation is a form of respect and appreciation for God's source energy in all of its expressions, from conserving and protecting our natural resources to being attentive to the needs of our bodies, to using the energies of our words and actions with gentle conservation, by which we freely use what is needed, but not more. God's source continually recycles life energies for the rebirth of new expression. All is given freely, but nothing is valueless or wasted. Conservation demonstrates that we have respect and appreciation for the gift of creative energy that God's source has provided to us. And as we learn to use this energy in all its forms with respect and clear intention, we will progressively fine-tune our ability to create what we desire, and in this process assist all other beings to do the same. There is truth in the old saying, waste not, want not. If everything we perceive in our hologram of life is understood to be manifestations of God's source, we might all employ a bit more respect, appreciation, and conservation towards the use and applications of the energies of the divine. Cooperation, diplomacy. And I think, for me, this is a really big one, especially in the business world. This is where we talk about win-win, creating win-win. Existence is and will always be a co-creative endeavor. We must be willing to allow other beings the fulfillment of their needs and desires if we hope to have our fulfillment known. Creating win-win situations and creating with the intention of giving genuinely are natural ways of being. We might not always agree with the intended creations of others, and we all have a right to our points of view. Diplomacy can be a bridge between forces of opposition, through which effective actions or decisions can be reached to mutually support each perspective. We can learn to agree to disagree respectfully, so the spiritual art of cooperative co-creation can progressively evolve to higher levels of expression. I often talk about, in the business world, cooperation versus competition, because competition really, truthfully, is it brings out the worst in people. Whereas, in a situation of competition, there always has to be a winner and a loser. But with cooperation, it's always a win-win. Both parties win. There doesn't have to be a winner and a loser. The last responsibility of mastery is sense. Learning to identify and appropriately apply both common sense and the uncommon sense of spiritual knowing will allow us to establish the greatest balance of energy expression within all aspects of our lives. Codes of behavior. Before I go on, did you have any comments, Kelly? Anybody have any comments or questions?
No.
Okay. Codes of behavior. Attitudes and responsibilities are ideal codes of behavior to keep us centered. They keep savior, martyr, and victimizer programs from driving the bus. They keep the ego in check and help us figure out what is truly divine guidance and what is not. The first step in receiving divine guidance is to accept yourself just the way you are. The tricky part is allowing yourself to recognize who you truly are. Each time we start to work with our attitude, we deal with something that affects the physical, something that affects the emotional, and something that affects the mental. So you will always have the physical, emotional, and mental level to bring into harmony with each other. Bringing these into harmonious balance raises our attitude to the next level of consciousness. The attitudes of mastery are concepts the mental body can use to choose, look at, think about, and try to feel what it might be like to look at life that way. The attitudes of mastery are filters you can consciously choose instead of the ones that are culturally programmed in. Most of the filters we choose to look at the world through are subconscious. However, we can choose our filters. It may take a while to integrate what the attitudes really mean and the feelings associated with them, feelings that will heal aspects of the shadow body and get the mind to a space where it understands that we do not have to get caught in certain reaction patterns. We have a choice in any situation. We can act or we can react. When we react, somebody else or something else is controlling our power. We are just giving a knee-jerk reaction to whatever somebody else decided to create. You know, we're talking about button pushing here. Remember that your consciousness is the camera and you can change the filters. Beliefs are ideas. Ideas turn into sound patterns of electromagnetic light and sound when they are in the body. If your beliefs and the things you choose to honor with your mind are not in divine alignment as far as what creates harmony and peace, it will literally create blockages in your bioenergetic field that block the ability of the higher levels to integrate. Most of us are looking at the world through our shadow, and we do not even know what is happening. We just feel it. That is where we get the fear feeling, the worry feelings, and the anger feelings. Also, where we get the days when we are absolutely manic. You are just wired. The frequencies are working. You feel good that day. Then you get the opposite, and you go into depression. All of these things are the play between the energies of the light and the shadow within each person. The shadow does not use any of these attitudes as filters. It uses fear, lack, and feels it has to take in order to survive, because it is afraid of not surviving at the core of its being. And what they're describing here is the fight or flight response. That's basically the shadow body. It was not an organic part of human beings. If we can learn to choose action and choose our filters and realize we had that choice in the first place, we can choose the 12 attitudes of mastery. This is where it begins. The attitudes and co-creation. I just want to take a moment here. Co-creation, humans were created as an angelic race, as guardians for this planet. And literally, human beings have the power to create with the mind, literally telekinesis, telepathic, all that kind of stuff was normal for humans of the past, a million years ago. But we've lost these abilities. But they're part of our pattern. They can be restored. So when I talk about co-creation, we're co-creators with God, because God is something that we're all part of.
Michael.
So it's a co-creative act.
Michael.
Yes.
Do you know any of the history? This is a little off, but just kind of curious, any history of how we lost that power?
Yes, it's a long story. I think what I'm going to do is, we actually come across this same subject a couple times as we move through this program, as I've got it outlined. And at one point, I'll stop and I'll kind of I'll give a condensed version of it. It's a 500-page book, but it can be condensed into 20-minute explanation. So
okay, thank you.
I'll do that. Thank you. The conscious mind plays a role in whether we experience our hologram in freedom or in chains. Attitude is everything. Attitude can determine whether you are in a state of turmoil or nervous breakdown, or whether you're in a state of grace and peace and you walk around smiling anyway, no matter what is going on. It does not mean a false smile. It means if you are feeling yucky, let yourself feel yucky. But tell yourself, okay, I'm processing this. I will get rid of it. I'm not going to take it out on other people, but I honor myself enough to let me process it. I'm not going to force myself to smile when I know I do not feel that. It means not getting stuck in the feeling. When you get sick after a challenging day, you have to find very interesting ways to handle that. Watch your body curved around you, and you are crawling through your days going, ow. And one thing gets better and something else goes, you can get really, really grouchy. You can feel like you can get depressed or not. It is even harder when you have to live with somebody else, be it a child, a spouse, or a parent. When you're feeling lousy and ready to bite anything that walks by just because you want to throw the energy somewhere, and if they are feeling lousy too, you hold the energy breath until it explodes, or you throw it. There is a certain way you can start to look at it. You can choose to look at it differently. The attitudes are simple things you can take with you. You do not have to remember a billion different formulas of Merkaba mechanics. Merkaba mechanics have to do with light body, to make a shift in the ideas and the words you are telling yourself about a situation. I feel yucky. Okay, my body is purging. What is yucky anyway? What is disease? It means your body is trying to get itself back to health. If you look at disease as a bad thing that invades your body and causes you harm, and you are this poor little victim of disease, you are setting in motion something that will chemically suppress your own immune system so that reality becomes more and more true. When you find yourself having emotional, mental, or physical issues, if you tell yourself, my mental, emotional, or physical body is trying to rebalance itself back to its natural state of health, you are reaffirming that the natural state is health. You are looking at the dissonance as being simply a part of the body rebalancing itself. This completely changes the chemical reality of the word disease when it registers in your body. It helps to strengthen your immune system. There are certain thoughts that increase the body's production of endorphins, resulting in happy feelings of health and healing that actually strengthen the immune system. Scientists are starting to find this out. They are beginning to do research with using affirmations and thought ideas to see what they do chemically in the body. These are what we call LTR statements. This is linguistic template reprogramming, things like I am. Many times we feel powerless here on this planet. All of us are made to feel small. People are raised with belief systems that teach that you are small, insignificant, and cannot make a difference, and that the individual does not mean anything. When we start to see what we are part of, we start to realize we can make a huge difference. If it were not for the people who paid attention to the work of the Guardian Alliance, these are the beings that brought forth this information, we would not have anyone here on this planet to anchor the frequencies needed for the Christos mission. If it were not for the information being brought back here, and if it were not for people like you that were listening to that information and felt the resonance within you, everyone would be activating their Metatronic Merkaba, which is a mutated version of the light body. We would all be descending into black hole fall and thinking we were ascending into Christ consciousness. We can really help ourselves by what we tell ourselves. This is about self-talk. Remember, we are big. Bigness is just another way of saying there is an expanded series of you some other place. You can choose in the moment to sense a little bit of the expanded you and play with the idea of you being here now, looking through the ideas that you have in your body, listening through the ears you have on the side of your face, and feeling with the hands that exist on the end of the arms. Why not? Only the way that you are thinking, only the way that you choose prevents that from being. There is no reason except your mental set, the way that you come to this question, and more importantly, the point from which you approach this as potential to be this thing called Big You. The Big You is reaching through your body for many reasons, some of which are very practical, immensely useful, and influential. Others are to remind itself what it felt like to have a relationship, to make love, to worry about money, or to choose between vegetarianism or the recognition that protein is not really so horrible. All sorts of reasons. And do you know what the key is? Fun. Fun is what a lot of us are working on. Sometimes we get so busy we forget fun. The spiritual journey a lot of us are going through is not always a lot of fun. But you will be surprised how much you can shift the way you feel about things just by playing with choice. Something to ponder. What are you feeling right now? Can you consciously shift your mind to focus on something fun? Allow yourself to play with choice and see how it feels in your body. Take a few moments and think about what is fun for you. What brings laughter into your life? What can you do that would bring a feeling of lightness into your hologram? What is the role of conscious creativity in your life? Can you consciously create fun in your life? How would you do that? And then these are some LTR, linguistic template reprogramming statements. I am whole now. I am my Christos self now. My life is full of wonder, grace, joy, and fun. I am this. I am. Any comments or questions? Okay.
No, myself is just enjoying this. This is fun, Michael.
Okay, good, good. Developing spiritual mastery. Attitude is important. Your attitudes assist in developing spiritual mastery. The frequency you pull will guarantee you certain kinds of relationships with your external environment. Chaotic thinking attracts chaotic frequency patterns, separating yourself from source. When they say source, they're talking about God's source. They use the words interchangeably. Attitude will make or break you. The frequency is providing you with that way of perceiving your environment, your hologram. Chaotic thoughts guarantee you will automatically react in certain ways, similar to a puppet or a marionette. People can push your buttons. Anything that contracts from a frequency level is dissonant. It is a reducing order. On the basis of frequency accretion, by engaging in chaotic thoughts, you attract more chaotic frequency patterns to you, which by definition means you push yourself away from source. In the process of millions of years, you are actually pulling more apartheid into your shields without knowing it. Now, apartheid are like energy antenna they're part of your subtle energy body anatomy. So when it says the word apartheid, think of like little antennas that pick up, they're like receivers. Attitude and thought patterns embed in the DNA template and create chemical realities in the body that help you through stargates. Stargates are how you go through ascension, and they're not metal rings like you see on TV, or stop you from going. Making a choice for mastery. I should pause here for a minute. Almost all this material is taken, these are all pretty much quotes from live workshops that have been put into written form. So a lot of these are it's people talking, so it's how they talk, it's how it's written. The Christic truths speak eternal, regardless of who does or does not listen. What makes a master is someone making a choice to follow a path of Christic evolution. Masters do not come ready-made. It is a path taken by choice and moved along by hard work and adherence to Christic principles. We do not know of anyone who walks on water or turns water into wine. Most everybody here is a master's work in progress. Anyone can make the choice to become a master. It is the distorted programs inside of us that run that tired old I am not worthy program, which makes us think everyone else is more along than we are. It's a bunch of FA, meaning fallen angelic crap. Anyone at any time can take the path of mastery, just like any person on the path of mastery can take a descending path. Both options are but a simple choice away. Ethics, decency, and meaningful, down-to-earth spiritual responsibility need to be seen and experienced as a keynote of our respective personal and public spiritual endeavors. We either attempt to ignore our spiritual responsibilities or embrace them lovingly, regardless of the apparent influences of mindless criticism and maladroit spiritual personalities. And there's a whole host of them out there, channeling away. This is a part of the path of mastery. Mastery calls for people who respect themselves enough to demand the right to understand, and thereby express their willingness to accept the huge responsibility of becoming who they truly are in the final fulfillment of the most sacred mission, which for many has spanned 250 billion years. For those who have not committed to the A&R focus, it is never too late to jump on board. It is an activity for all, newcomers and oldcomers. It is a great way to connect to the shield. Exclusion is a personal choice. The shield refers to there's a larger group energy shield. It's very large, and it's something that we're all a part of. There are various shields, but we're all part of one. It's also called the tribal shield, which has to do with family and genetics, but it's a little more than that. Something to ponder. Are you willing to align yourself with Christic principles, no matter how hard it gets? What choices do you find yourself making when the going gets tough? What do you think is your spiritual responsibility? Are you willing to lovingly embrace your spiritual responsibility? I accept now my responsibility to become who and what I am. I am this. I am. Kelly, how are we doing on time? I don't have my clock in front of me.
It's 1:34.
Okay, so we're fine. Okay. Arrogance and spiritual violation. There are times when we demand that others justify their existence and perspectives in precise accordance with our presently limited concepts and ideas pertaining to the nature of reality. We continue to project our own hidden and denied improprieties or inequities of integrity, clarity, and motivation upon others, blaming and accusing them of precisely the unsavory attitudes, actions, motivations, and behaviors that we ourselves are spewing into the external world. We fail to recognize what utter arrogance, spiritual violation of others, spiritual denial of ourselves, and absolute immaturity and ignorance that this type of demand of justification from others implies. Where did we ever get the idea that anyone, God source, the universe, the Eoni, who are a very high race who help bring these teachings, our parents, our partners, our teachers, the government, etc., is required to justify their existence or perspectives to us or owes us anything, including an explanation or answer. We owe ourselves these things and much more. But as long as we refuse responsibility for this by projecting our power and accountability onto external sources, blaming and angrily demanding from the external, instead of lovingly giving to it and to ourselves, we will continue to disempower ourselves and perpetually place ourselves into the role of playing victim. So we can draw to ourselves the external mirror to reflect back to us the ways in which we are violating and denying our true selves. So it's literally a self-replicating process, and it just goes down, 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 but it can also go up, up, up. So, make the choice to go up, up, up. Attention and answers from our own personal inner Christos, from God's source, from the beloveds. Beloveds is another term that they use to describe the guardian alliance, or their earthly representatives, and from everything in the universe are available if we appreciate that attention and answers are gifts, not entitlements we have a right to take for granted. If we repeatedly fail to recognize this fact and continue to spew demand, judgment, blame, and accusation of others into our world will progressively frustrate us by faithfully reflecting back the insensitivity, unkindness, unfairness, judgment, and lack of love we are spewing. Those of us who justify our inappropriate use of energy in this way can spew at God, the beloveds, their representatives, etc., until our hearts are content. But in this way, our hearts will never be content, for it is ourselves, not anyone else, whom we are hurting through such attitudes and actions. By such actions, we keep ourselves stuck in the victim-victimizer game. As we get through a little more, I'm going to talk more about the victim-victimizer game. In short, it's a game that starts where one person victimizes another person, and then in response, that person victimizes the other. So the victim becomes the victimizer becomes the victim, and it just goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, on and on and on and on. And it's been going on this planet for literally millions of years. If one desires Christic assistance in finding one's own answers to personal questions, including those pertaining to this work, then we suggest asking one's questions in a loving, appreciative, kindly, sincere Christic manner, a practice through which one might find that the feedback one hopes to acquire returns in like Christic fashion. Ask your question in a respectful way rather than a challenging one. The posture of, I asked a question, I deserve an answer, mode reeks of entitlement issues, victim-victimizer scenarios, and you will most probably get sent the 12 attitudes of responsibility in response to your question. That's what I do when somebody does that to me. And, I have people do that to me, so I send them, that's exactly what I do. I send them the 12 attitudes and responsibilities of mastery. So that's exactly what I do. It will help if you demonstrate some responsibility for your own enlightenment, perhaps asking to be directed to where you can find this information. It is not anyone's job to show anyone anything. The answer is always found in the quest, the internal process that matures us as we experience these questions and find the answers ourselves. Therein lies the true power and the gift that the question brings. It is not anyone else's role to provide those answers for another. Once one has learned and embodied the lessons of divine love and power, one recognizes that the greatest joy is the giving, not in the taking, and that the greatest power is in the being, not in the controlling. The Emerald Order teachings, which is what these are from, hold sacred the law of one. Judgment and elitism have no place. Some of these are issues that have come up in this particular group that this was written to. So that's why some of these issues are addressed, because they're particularly directed at somebody, but they're still very representative of issues that arise in our everyday lives. Something to ponder. When you want answers about something, do you do the bulk of the work in researching the answers? Yes, of course you do. When you have questions about something, do you get upset if someone does not answer all the questions, but instead directs you to where you can find your own answers? And here are some LTR statements. I now take full responsibility for my own enlightenment. I am finding the answers to my questions now. I am divine love, power, wisdom, and knowledge. I am this. I am. Violation of spiritual integrity. We can stay focused on the most important task right now, and that is clearing our own template and healing the distortions that are there through diligence with techniques. Carrying our template right now is planetary service of the highest magnitude, because the more we clear, the more we can carry out with us, serving as hosts. Let me just pause here for a second and explain what that means. For many of us are here on this planet, and I know there's only 3 of us here listening, but other people will be listening to this too. But those who tend to be attracted to this work, there's a frequency that attracts you. There's a resonance. The beings that are here on this planet to be of service, just by being on this planet, we are actually anchoring a much higher frequency into the planet, a much higher frequency than has ever been here before. And that is how we are of service. Anything beyond that, to me, is like frosting on the cake. It took me a long time to realize that, but I'm here basically to be an anchor and a living, breathing, walking, talking example of Christic principles for others. And you know, if I'm able to do anything more, like share the A&Rs on a webinar, that's frosting on the cake, and that's wonderful, baby. It is a violation.
Michael,
Pardon?
Let me see.
Sure.
If Kelly, do you have anything to add there?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, because I had my speaker in my computer so I could hear it. I think this is, you know, you've said so much, so way back I was thinking about how much fun Lucy and I are always having. And get down. I'm going to put her outside for just a second. I mean, you just said something now. Go outside. Go. Really connected with, and I've been up since 4:30 a.m. this morning, having so much fun, enjoying this very much. So thank you. You just said something like baby. You said something. Are we having fun yet, baby, or something like that? Didn't you, Michael? And I was thinking, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, you're always having fun, Kelly. That's the great thing. You're always having fun. So I notice things like that.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah, yeah, and I'll know when I'm not having fun, and then I'll most likely just stop doing it. Yeah, and I don't even really know what boredom is. I can't even think. I used to be bored easily, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Well, when the last part of what we just talked about and everything, when I think about where I am in this space right now and know that I am vibrating on a higher frequency, what you said about we are really elevating up more than has ever been done before, and I truly believe that. I can feel that around me. I can feel that in me, and that's why a lesson like this, and just to kind of teach my brain, which has been, calcified for most of my life, and now it's become conscious again. Really, uh, it's so wonderful to hear that we really are, whether we can stay focused in this all the time or not, whether we can be having fun all the time, and we have to remind ourselves, have fun, don't take it so serious, have fun, even in those times that we kind of forget and we're not being 100% pure to self. We're still making such a big impact.
Absolutely. Remember that just by being here, you are, and by giving in the way that you guys give, you're being electrical transmitters. And so literally, we're like these massive broadcast powers of this very high frequency, broadcasting in 360 degrees in all directions, omnidirectional, to everyone around you. So your neighbors get those who you live near get the biggest dose of it, but everyone else, that you come in contact with throughout your day also is a receiver of it. And that
Right.
is how we're of service. Sometimes it helps to remember that, because I know many times in the past I used to feel like, well, I feel like I should be doing something. And it's like when I go vertical, the answer comes to me, but you are doing something. And I was like, really? What am I doing? And it says, you're being there. You're being here now. Oh, yeah.
That's lovely.
Okay, I'll keep going a little bit here. I want to kind of get through the power of thought today. It is a violation of someone's spiritual integrity to scan or check their fields without permission. The condition of someone else's fields is not our business. It is also not safe. It leaves us open to intrusion by energies in their fields that might not have our best interests at heart. The best protection is not to probe in another's fields. It is psychic intrusion and a violation of someone's space. We should tend to our own gardens and stay focused on being the best holders of frequency we can be. Working every day with the attitudes and responsibilities of mastery will help us stabilize the incoming frequencies as we heal our own templates. The power of thought. The angelic mind looks at things differently. It recognizes that as a conscious being, it has a choice as to which ideas, it will represent. You have the responsibility for learning to observe your thoughts. Become mindful. Become aware of what is going on in your mind. No matter how awful your thoughts may be, if you allow them to move through you, they change into something else by the way you react to it, because you add energy to it. Your thoughts affect your DNA template. Your DNA template is the structure that throws energy around in very specific ways that creates the projection of the external hologram that we walk. Literally, your external reality is being created moment to moment by your thoughts. It's literally the brain patterns of all of us on the planet collectively creates our collective hologram. So your own personal reality comes from your own thoughts and your own beliefs on how the world is. Every time you think, you create a scalar wave pattern, which is scalar wave is an infrasound pattern that sets a blueprint for manifestation. Thoughts are things, and they are extremely powerful. There is a biological reality of spiritual integrity that manifests chemically within the DNA as a result of the state and focus of your consciousness. In the long run, your own biology will be your taskmaster, for passage through stargates requires a sufficient amount of chemically encoded spiritual integrity of consciousness. Okay, I'm going to go through one more and then we're going to pause here. Controlling your mind. Learning to control your mind is not a rigid thing. It is not a forced thing. It is something that must be done out of love. It must be done in a way where you start off with absolute love for yourself, absolute forgiveness for yourself ahead of time, absolute in the determination, I will not judge myself. This is how you begin the process of learning genuine mastery of your mind patterns. If you experience chaotic patterns from the D2, which is Dimension 2, elemental emotional body, we suggest you use your mental body to first acknowledge it, then let it move through you. If you repress emotion because it does not feel good, and you use your mind as a dictator instead of as a liberator, you will simply tie yourself in knots. And that's literally what post-traumatic stress disorder is. You will not help your manifestation process. You will not do spiritual integration. You will not set yourself free. Kelly. There you go, Kelly. Your mic was muted. Okay. It is time to become aware of stuff that needs to be cleaned up. It is a good time to clean it up, and the best place to start is with what you are going to let yourself think about. We do not want to manifest at the speed of thought until we are clear. We need to fix the thought generator machine first. We must clear ourselves, heal things that lead us into reversals, integrate the shadow, and learn responsible manifestation. Otherwise, if you get this power back and you're having a bad day, you can really manifest yourself a worse one. I mean, imagine today if humans, the power of telekinesis was restored suddenly. Oh man, this would be a living hell. When you first start to become a master of your hologram, mental body training is what actually comes first. Learn to choose your thoughts. Learn to observe what your thoughts are doing. You do this by becoming mindful, which means you take some time to be alone privately with no music on, no distractions, and simply close your eyes and say, all right, self, I'm just going to sit and observe. You learn to observe what is happening in the space in your head first, without sensory distraction. The best place to do it is in a dark room with a comfortable temperature where you do not have light distracting you. You do not have temperature variation distracting you. Iani protocol, and the Iani, remember the higher beings that brought some of this teachings. Iani protocol includes ownership, responsibility, and accountability of and for your words. Okay, something.
Awesome, Michael.
I'm just going to finish these two things, and then we'll start.
Okay.
We'll start next week with coming back into balance. Something to ponder. Okay. Observe your thoughts. There's no need to think about your thoughts, but just observe. Allow them to pass through. Take a breath and focus on your breathing. Allow the breath to be like a breeze blowing through the thoughts. Continue to focus on your breathing. Allow yourself to be. And some LTR statements. I take full ownership of all my words and of all my creations. I am responsibility. I am accountability. I am absolute love.
What a great place to end.
Yeah, I thought that would be a good place to end.
Awesome.
Okay, well, oh, let me